explain the meaning of my name because it seems very simple, no, Obehi. And I ended up writing an article of 5,000 words to explain what it means because it was tied to spirituality and why my mother gave me that name and all of that.
You just give me an inspiration. I also need to go and write an entire article about Abimbola. The most beautiful thing about this jacket.
Tell me about that. I'm interested.
About this jacket is the fact that you can wear them inside out. So you leave your house now on one side, and then you are going for a party and you can't get back home.
You transform.
You just transform.
All right. Tell me about the equilibrium architect. What does that mean?
How many inventions, how many advancements we as a civilization have left on the table? You know what, in business they say don't leave money on the table. Do you know how many of it we have left on the table just because we are running a system that just filters people out to become copies?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Obehi Podcast. I remain your host, Obehi Ewanfo. We love to talk about story because it's the most important instrument that we have discovered to be able to stand out in the competition because there is a lot of competition out there, over 5 billion people on the internet. If you don't have a story or if you don't own your story, you will just be reciting that of the other people. And that might not be the best thing for you if you are a business especially. So that is why we encourage everyone to own their story and leverage it as the best instrument to differentiate themselves. So today I'm going to be talking with Abimbola, who is going to be sharing with us what she does. Why is she even doing what she's doing? So Abimbola, thank you so much for being here. Could you tell the people who you are?
Hello, everyone. I'm so super glad to be here. I'm Abimbola Oliyide, and I am the Equilibrium Architect. What I do is help people to align their inner consciousness with the outer consciousness, aligning who you are by original design with the systems that have already been created in the world so that you can live your best life and be the best version of yourself that God has made you to be.
That's
me
truth.
in a nutshell.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Abimbola. Now, we want to learn more about you, like I was saying before in the beginning of the conversation, because that is really we are very passionate about that. Abimbola, from the way that name sounds, I can almost deduce without any mistake that is a Yoruba name. Could you tell me, were you born in the UK or in any part of the western part of Nigeria? Tell me a bit about your story.
I am Abimbola from the western part of Nigeria, the Yoruba-speaking side of Nigeria, and my name means born into wealth.
Wow!
And, yes, and I love to embody my name. I love to live to the live up to the expectation because as you can see, my name itself is powerful. So it always reminds every time I want to feel any less than myself, I remember that I've been given a name that already opens doors for me, that already makes room for me. So you understand. So there is power in a name. There is something about a name, and most of them that know when I meet people and they say, "Oh, I named my son so," and I'm like, "Oh, what does it mean?" And I tell them they know. I said, "No, you never do that. You shouldn't do that." The other day I was speaking with a colleague and she named her son Theo. And I was like, "Oh, that's a beautiful name. What does it mean?" And she said she doesn't know. She just likes it. I said, "Oh, you should look it up." And funny enough, we looked it up and I think it means friend of God or gift of God. I was like, wow, and she, in that moment, she felt more alive and more elated, that, oh, she actually gave her son a name that is actually something that, if she knew the meaning, that would have even been her first choice, you get. So back to who I am. I was born and bred in Nigeria. I moved to the UK about 3 years ago. I had all my early years education in Nigeria. my first two degrees, my BSc and Master MBA in Nigeria, and I worked in banking for over a decade in Nigeria. Started life coaching in Nigeria. Started fashion business in Nigeria. So I did quite a whole lot of. So my foundation basically is is Nigeria. I'm very very thoroughbred Nigerian, and yeah. So apart from that, I'm somebody that is just very passionate about empowering people. It's always been so. Before I became the equilibrium architect, I've always been the person that always wants everyone around me to fulfill their potential. I've always believed that there is more to everybody. I am a multi-potential. I I'm multi-talented. I do a whole lot of things. Even from everything that I've said, you will see like, only she, yes. So, so I always believe that, yes, because most people are usually fascinated by how many things I am able to do. So when I begin to have conversations with them, I am looking out for their own gifts and talent that they might be trivializing, that they might not be paying attention to, and that I am able to help them to also, bring that out of them. And it's like, oh, I never saw it that way. You understand? So by you conversing with me, I also help you to dig out your own treasure that you may not even know is lying there. So that's who I am in another bigger show, not a nutshell this time around. So now, at least I'm giving you a background as to, my Nigerian story, my educational background, my career, my business, and then my relationship with people. And I was born into a nuclear family. My dad was a professor at the University of Lagos. My mom was a business owner. And so growing up in that kind of environment was a very, how will I put it? A very academic environment. But one thing that my dad did for me was giving me a voice early on in life. What I mean by a voice early on in life is, when he went to the staff club with his colleagues to have a drink, to eat suya. I know any Nigerian that listen, you know what suya means.
Of
You know,
course.
the roasted meat with the pepper and the onions, and then maybe pepper soup and all. I was as young as 9, as young as 9 or 10. I went because my mom would have gone to work, so she's probably not back from her business venture and all of that. So myself and my dad would go to the staff club together. So right there, I'm the only child there, but I will be seated in the midst of professors, in the midst of senior lecturers, in the midst of doctors. So you can imagine me, a little child, sitting in the midst of this kind of people. But I'm not sitting down there just because, oh, they just put me in one corner to be sipping malt. No, I am sitting in their midst, and they're asking me questions, and I'm answering, and I'm asking them questions. So you can imagine what that does to the mind of a child. So right from when I was young, it was not a big deal for me to sit in the midst of how the Bible says, "See thou a man diligent in his business, will stand before kings," and all. So I've always sat in the midst of people that stimulate me intellectually. You see what I mean? So when I'm having conversations with people, you can see why my trajectory has always been, oh, if these adults or these people that are really, really cerebral are having this kind of conversation, there is really nobody I can't hold a conversation with. You get what I mean? So that really, really boosted my confidence and my morale from an early age, being in their midst. And guess what? They gave me a name, Vice President. I was the Vice President of the club because everybody looked forward to see me, for me to just be in their midst, and then, listen to what they have to say, and then ask my opinion, and I say my own. And, so it's really one of those things that I really, really appreciate about my childhood, about growing up in that kind of environment, because I know it's not every child of a lecturer or a professor that had that kind of opportunity. But I'm thankful to my dad that I had that kind of opportunity to be able to be in the midst of those kind of highly intelligent people, and for my mind to be opened up so early in such a way that when adults are speaking, I can quickly pick up on what they are talking about, and I can also from my own, maybe even naive, understanding, I can bring my own contribution to the table. So yeah, so that's a bit of, my childhood, and then how it's been in Nigeria.
All right. That's great. That's great. There is a lot of thing, a lot of interesting thing that you said there that actually will merit a comment. But of course, we wouldn't have time for each of them. You talk about names. That is really fundamentally important. Uh, hmm. For the name, we could do an entire episode just talking about that.
Absolutely.
I remember I wrote an article couple of that should be, I don't know, 2 years ago, more or less, try to explain the meaning of my name because it seems very simple, no, Obehi. And I
But
ended
deep.
up writing an article of 5,000 words to
Whoa.
explain what it means because it was tied to spirituality and why my mother gave me that name and all of that. So,
Wow.
yes, to your point, I think it is very important, particularly for us as African and our people of African descent, never give name just like that. Name means something. Your
Mhm.
name is an evocation of thousands of years of evolution, of your
Mm.
family, of your lineage, of your legacy. You need to be sure of why you give the name to the child. For example, when my son was born, I gave him the name Efwa.
Mm.
Now, Efwa in Esan, because I'm coming from Esan, southern Nigeria, means light. Okay, I didn't just do that. I have thought of that. I want that to mean something.
Mm.
So when my
That's
son grows
amazing.
up, he knows that there is a reason why that name is given to him.
Exactly.
So of course, I was saying again, there is a lot we could actually talk about the name and all of that, but I don't want to rob the show. I don't want to steal the show. So
Amazing. But then let me just add, you just gave me an inspiration. I also need to go and write an entire article about Abimbola.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good
Yeah,
thing because that also is part of our reclaiming our heritage now. Because
our
now I
identity.
am telling the world this is how you should see me. I'm not waiting for the world to name me. I'm saying this is who I
Mhm.
am.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Beautiful.
all right,
Hmm.
Abibola. Of course, you have touched a bit about the father. Your mom is a business, so we can see where the business idea is coming from. But how
Yeah.
did you get rooted in it? Tell us a bit about that. We are interested because now you have done a lot of things in fashion. You sold, you bought, you work in the corporate world as a work in the bank, but you also did business. But let's focus more on those business part because now that will lead us to what you are doing today. Help us
Okay.
explain that.
Okay. So, business has always been, like I said, like, my mom was always a business person. She was, my mom is a creative person, so back then in Nigeria, there was this, the printing business was a really, really, flourishing, and she printed for all and sundry, from people all over the world. She was like the go-to person. So, and it's not just because she was just a printer. No, she was a graphics artist. So she actually went to school, like, I think, she is it Yabatek? Yeah, I think Yabatek, like, have like, went there to study graphics art. You understand? So that's like our own source, like our own natural zone of genius. So from that graphics artistry, she now moved into printing business, which is like the bigger aspect of it, bringing to life the things that she uses her hands to draw and all of that. So by the time I was 13 or 14, I had started to, so right from primary school, I had always been, loved fine art. But, and then by the time I got to secondary school, that was also my elected course, fine art. So even up to, what's it called, WAEC, I did fine art. So for 6 years, I did fine art, so that's the time, like, that follow comes in the blood. It was like, it was just something that was just my natural zone of genius. But back to when I was 13, we went for a wedding, one of my dad's friends' child's wedding. And in Nigeria, how they give souvenir, like, now, if you've never been to a Nigerian party, you've not been to a party. Because the kind of souvenirs they will give you, I mean, everybody can, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So one of the the things in the bag was like what's it called now? Was a jot. There's usually a jotter in those souvenirs. But what was most intriguing about that was the fact that for the very first time I was seeing a jotter that was um like a drawing book. It was plain. It was plain, like there was just a plain sheet of paper. And as soon as we got home, it was as if everyone was waiting for that connection between me and that jotter, because I just started receiving inspiration of dresses and I started sketching. Within a week, I had filled up that entire jotter with different styles of dresses. It was crazy. And then before I knew, I went to my mom's. My mom had an office in the house, and she had printer. She had A4 paper. I started taking her A4 paper. I started stitching them together. I couldn't stop drawing, and it was around that same period too that I started writing songs and started writing poems and all of that. But this drawing thing, I couldn't stop, to the point that she had to ban me because I started spending all the time I was supposed to spend on my schoolwork drawing. So she had to ban me for for a few years. Like I think when I got to SS2 or SS3, I wasn't drawing anymore. And then I got to university and then I came out, and then she said, "Oh, okay, that's your talent. That you won't even let anybody rest in this house. Okay, go to a fashion school and go and even see how to bring it to life." So before NYSC, which we do in Nigeria, immediately after your university education, you have to go for Nigerian Youth Service Corps. So before, like 3 or 4 months before I was called to, before my call up, I went to a fashion school. And, that was where I was able to now see how I can bring the ideas in my head into reality. So after the whole NYSC stuff, I started applying for jobs, but I wrote down 13 different things that I could do based on my talent. And at the end of the day, I started my fashion business. But what I did first was to go work for someone that had a fashion house that didn't know how to draw. So I was the creative
The
designer
creative
there,
one.
Yeah, exactly. She couldn't draw to save herself. So anytime she was going to banks to go, because she had really great clientele, I would go with her. Once you are describing that style, unlike, now we are living in the age of AI that you can just even describe the style to AI to probably be able to do it for you, or
Sure.
you understand, or you just take the picture and then you put it on Google. But then it was near impossible. But once you describe it, even now, if you describe a style for me, and you just tell me, "Oh, Abimbola, I saw a style somewhere. This is how," and you just explain it the best way you can, I will put it down for you on paper, and you will be wondering, did I look into your brain to to be able to put that onto paper? So that was how, as you understand. So we went together, and then I was able to learn the business side of fashion, learned where to get fabrics, learn how to, the kind of clientele I needed to get, the kind of people that will be able to pay my money and all of that kind of stuff. So after like 2 months there, it wasn't really working out. It was a very, very toxic uh, environment for me. But I was able to learn as much as I needed to start a business. So I started my business. And I started telling people, "Oh, okay, come and sew." And why did I do that? Because I started scouting for tailors around that could also now interpret my design, even though I didn't have a machine of my own. You understand? So I just started looking for people that could interpret my design, people that could interpret my design. Then I started that. That was as far back as I think 2012. Think as far back as 2012. Yes, if I remember correctly, as far back as 2012. And then before I knew it, but in that even through all of that, I was still applying for jobs. So it was after I had started my business, then I got a job with a bank, and then I was still doing the two of them pari passu, because of obviously this passion of mine has always been there before. The banking job was just for me to have like a security net while I build what I really wanted out of life. You get what I mean? So and obviously, because I've already been exposed to the fact that, look, the kind of people that will pay your money are in banks. So it just made sense for me to be working in a bank, and then my colleagues are the one that will be paying me. Like I don't have to be, like I do. It's just like, do you get, like, so it was just like a perfect arrangement you get. And the plan was 5 years, but I ended up, you know how it is. You plan for 5 years, and then because of obvious constraints and things like you just living in the reality of, look, you need this kind of security while you still build more. I ended up spending like a decade in the banking and all of that. But then, so that was how I started to build my business on the side while holding down a career, 9 to 5 and all of that. Sometimes I would drive to the office, and I get back home like maybe 10 p.m., have to do finishing on clothes, because of course I had people working with me. And one thing that happened was that when I was learning how to sew, my what's it called, the person that trained me, God bless her wherever she is, but she opened my eyes to the fact that, Abimbola, you are not one of us. Like one of us, what she meant was like, you are not one of us that sits on the machine to be toiling and laboring away and wasting away energy. You are a master strategist. You are more of the marketing, like the brain behind the system. You understand? Like, I just thank God for the kind of people God has, put in my path, all this while. You understand? Because she broke that jinx of the fact that I needed to be the one to sit on the machine to get the job done.
All right.
If
That is
you
that is
understand,
that is
and she was
important
one.
now.
Do you understand? And she was the one teaching me how to do this thing. But it was important for me to know how it is done, because so that when I'm talking to a tailor and they're telling me, "Oh, this cannot be done," and I explain, I said, "No, you do it this way, you do it this way, and you do it that way." And they're like, "How do you see?" I hate to sit on him. I hate anything that is a physical labor. No, I hate it. But bring the brain work. I can do that one. You understand? So she was able to break that jinx for me to say, look, it's okay for you to be the brain behind how the system, how everything is working, but you don't have to be the one laboring the way physically. And that ultimately liberated me. That was why I was still able to hold down a 9 to 5 and then still be able to run the business, because at the end of the day, what that did for me was that, okay, I had people that would do the foundational stuff, couple all my designs together, but I do the finishing and make sure that the details are there. So when I'm even back from work and I pick up the clothes from my tailors and all of that, I'm back home like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. till like 2 a.m. I'm stoning, beading, putting all the aesthetics together to just make sure that this thing has an Abimbola signature on it. You see what I mean? So that was how the business, began. I did everything. I sold everything. But in 2018, I decided to now streamline my business and niche down to bomber jackets, to begin to tell the indigenous African story, to show the world that Africa is not a place where people live on trees. We don't live on horse. We have skyscrapers in Africa. We have, dual carriageways in Africa. We have massive hospital. We have amazing things. And Africa is not the what's it called, poverty capital like it has been projected to be. There is actually an incredible pool of talented people, and talented and amazing people in Africa. So by inspiration, I decided that, okay, I can't sew everything. I can't be everything to everybody. And I decided, okay, let me pick the bomber jacket and use the indigenous African fabric, Ankara, Ashoke, Adire, and all of those things to begin to project the African image, make it world-class, make world-class jackets in such a way that anywhere you see the jackets in the world, you can't but ask, where did you get this jacket? Because the jackets will definitely pull you in, and then it will make you curious. And then, of course, the story would now be told of, oh, this is from Nigeria, this is made in Africa, my Africans. And then you can see, and that just tells you that, oh, okay, this definitely can be people living on trees or people dining with monkeys that would have been able to make this kind of world-class, jacket. So that was how my business has evolved over the years. And that is where we are now. And beyond the business, there is a social enterprise, there is a social angle to the business, whereby the young tailors that I work with in Nigeria, most of them, I discover that they are high school dropouts who somehow also have the gift of talent, just the way I discovered mine. And then they have also learned how to sew and all of that. So what we do is that we deliberately and intentionally engage these high school dropouts in such a way that when they make clothes for us, they can have enough money to go back to school, or if go back to school, which is a prerogative, which is very important. And also, but if some of them I say I just want to make money, otherwise, start their own business and be able to set up their own space to begin to grow bigger in their fashion business. And of course, beyond and which ties to the SDG goal for quality education. So the jacket doesn't just tell about Africa in a great light, which is SDG 10, equality amongst nations, projecting Africa in a positive light. And of course, that light is shining from Nigeria, by extension to Africa. But beyond that, also now touching on SDG 4, which also ties to quality education, which addresses the gap for these high school dropouts, which of course some of them family issues, poverty, maybe the father, because I lost my dad at the age of 14. So I know what it was like to almost drop out of school then. So I can relate with why they dropped out of school, because not everybody would be able to continue when the person that is actually holding the family together just suddenly they are no more there, they are no longer there to hold space for you. And nobody planned for that. You get what I mean? So that addresses that. And of course, quality work, and I think that's SDG. Is that SDG 8? I think that's SDG 8. And then SDG 5 for the women, because the people who buy the fabrics from the Ankara, the Ashoke, they are mostly women that do all of this local fabric. So we also plow back the money locally to ensure that money goes into empowering women to sustain their business and all of that. So you can see how the business has metamorphosed from just, oh, I can draw, to, okay, let me learn how to do it, to, okay, engaging tailors to do it. Then now niching down to, okay, bomber jacket telling the story of
Yeah, tell
Africa.
me about that bomber jacket. When you created it, how was it? How was it sold? You sold it like around you, or did you have to do some marketing around it, so that you can distribute to other parts of Nigeria? So tell me about that.
Yeah, so because I've always been in fashion, it was just a case of now my existing client base to tell them, okay, all I do now is bomber jacket. And of course, that was the period where bomber jacket just started becoming a thing. Do you get it? Started becoming 2018. That was when it started becoming an item, like in Nigeria. Started becoming something that everybody was interested in. And there were not many Ankara jackets then, for people to say, oh, I have an Ankara bomber jacket. Most of them were foreign brands. So what we did was to have combination of, it's not just a case of, oh, just one Ankara. No, it can be like 5 different Ankaras, with something that ties, maybe it's just the color yellow that ties them together, or Ankara and Ashoke. And of course we mix other fabrics like denim, denim, what's the other one? Chinos and all wool. We have other mixtures of fabrics, but basically the foundation is the African jacket. So because I already have a clientele base, I already have people that know me for fashion, it was easy to be able to project that. So people from all over the world, America, Canada, UK, we ship there. And when people come home to Nigeria, it's always like the perfect gift to give to somebody that's coming from abroad, because bomber jacket is known out there in the world. So so it's actually the Nigerians in diaspora that are the actual target market, because when you see it on them, you know that, okay, this is African, but it is world class. You get what I mean? So yeah, so that was how we're able to distribute. And of course, most people, it was like the perfect birthday gift for their loved ones, and we did customize the jackets for them. Just make it as unique as possible. And we had clients that were not even African. I had very good clients amongst the Indian communities, because of the colors, the vibrancy of, the combination and all of that. So a lot of them actually loved it as well. They ordered in numbers, because it just bridges the gap. It's not just the jacket and one thing I always say is that a sweet and savvy jacket is not a jacket that you will see on any other person in the world. It's your jacket is as unique as you, because what are the odds that the fabrics that have been put together will be together in the in the factory of another fashion designer, and they will couple it together in the way that we have coupled it. You see what I mean? So that's where, the uniqueness of how we bring these things to life, or how we create our jackets, how it stands out. So, I've had people call me or send me a message on, I just saw your jacket at the airport. I just saw somebody wearing your jacket. And sometimes it might not even be my jacket, but because that was this unique signature I started. And now I see a lot of people copying, what I started in 2018, but you always have to be a trendsetter. So people will just come in. I just saw somebody wearing your jacket. Somebody will just probably post a random video and somebody say, Abimbola, somebody's just stealing your idea, like this thing, like you get like, but most people know that I started that bomber jacket thing, like just niching down to just bomber jacket, because like I think I was the only person that was known in Nigeria to just do only bomber jacket made in African fabric, made in Ashoke and everything indigenous, and then combine a whole lot of other Western fabrics and then just make it world class. So yeah, so that was how we were able to spread the news and then get people on board,
All
and then
right.
of course tell the story.
So, what is the situation of that business that somebody want to buy today? Is it still
Mhm.
existing? Because now you are in the UK. Is
Yeah,
that fashion? Yeah, tell
now
me.
I'm in the UK. The truth is that I'm in the UK, so there is, of course, that constraint of border and all of that stuff. But I have some of them here with me in the UK that are still very much available, for sale. I still have quite a good number that are still very much available for sale, and in quite different sizes and all of that. So yeah, so anyone that's interested in getting a sweet and savvy jacket to tell the African story. And the beauty, and I've not even told you the most beautiful thing about this jacket. One
Tell
of the
me,
most
tell me about
beautiful
that. I'm
things
interested.
about this jacket is the fact that you can wear them inside out. So you leave your house now on one side, and then you're going for a party and you can't get back home
You
to
transform.
change. You just transform. And then now let me go deeper. Apart from that, for some custom made ones you can check us out on Instagram, and the name is very straightforward: African underscore bomber jackets. So you can see, like, it's even in the name, African underscore bomber jackets. Check us out on Instagram and you will see most of our designs there. That's our major place of our major outlet. So let me go deeper. For customized ones that we create as well, apart from, so the ones that I just said that you can flip out, um that one is available. Yeah, we still have some of those designs here. But for some customized one that we did in Nigeria is the fact that you don't just transform in out, you can also transform to the level of removing the sleeves.
That's interesting. That's
Do you
interesting.
understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So, so you can, it's like the construction, you can break it down to as many layers as you need it to go, I know I was, as in, like, for me, like, I was going crazy and wild on the design, because I just kept going deeper on bomber jackets. And that's how creative you get when you focus and niche on one thing, and you become so dexterous and become so good at it that everybody knows. Wherever anybody saw a great jacket, then they just know. Even my colleagues in the fashion industry, back then, before everybody now started deciding that they wanted to do bomber jackets as soon as I left the country, was now they came to me. If you want a bomber jacket that would actually, make a statement wherever you enter, you come to Abimbola for the bomber jacket. So you get so you can discuss. So if you check our Instagram page, you will see some of those deconstructed ones whereby it can become a sleeveless jacket. And then there are those ones that also it can be hooded, and then you can remove the hood as well. So you can deconstruct it to the point where it becomes a sleeveless jacket as well. And of course, we customize them with whatever you want it to be customized. And then we have embellished ones, we have beaded ones, the whole 9 yards. So we went like the whole 9 yards when
Very
it came
good.
to,
Very good.
designing bomber jackets. So,
Thank you.
so that's the power of how one thing can become something like, wild. Like one point, there is version 1.0, 1.0, there is version 100. There can be as many, just the way the iPhone is. Now we have iPhone 17, and I don't know what iPhone 20 is going to look like, but that's how far and how deep designing the bomber jacket has gone for me. And apart from the bomber jacket, we also have the one that looks like a trench coat, which we call a kimono. So that one also, it has the semblance of what the bomber jacket, but it's just that it is longer. It's like a trench coat, and it also can be worn inside out. We also still have some of those ones in stock as well.
All right, thank you. Now, tell me about what is the future of your fashion? What is going to be happening there? Is this something that is continuing? Are you going to stop it at a point? Do you have a plan for it going maybe like in the next 5-10 years?
So my fashion is, apart from the fact that I'm in the UK and all of those things, like it's sort of not on the front burner right now. But obviously, you can still engage me on that level because I still have things to show for it that, yes, I'm a fashion entrepreneur. But what is on the front burner now is that I am an equilibrium architect, and I'm helping people to live their best life, which obviously my fashion is also part of it, because I'm going to be hosting a whole lot of lifestyle events, a whole lot of experiences that also brings people into my world, and my world fashion would always be a part of my world. You understand? So it's now going to be an entire ecosystem of not just, it won't just be Abimbola fashion designer. It's it's a whole ecosystem of who I am. And so on my on what I tell people is, I don't just clothe you on the outside, I clothe you on the inside also. You understand? So it's one thing for you to look good on the outside. It's another thing for you to have a good well-being on the inside. So right now I'm not just clothing the physical body. I am clothing the soul. I'm clothing the spirit in such a way that you show up as the best version of yourself in the world that we are living in. So the future of my fashion is going to be well integrated into everything that I'm doing now. It's part of my ecosystem. I am not just a fashion entrepreneur anymore. It's just one of my expressions. It's just one of the things that expresses who I am by original design. It's one of those things that just makes me who I am, my multi-potential self and all of that. So to answer your question, my fashion would always be there, but it might not be the thing that I project to say, oh, I'm a fashion entrepreneur, but it will always be part of my ecosystem of the value and the service that I offer to humanity.
All right. Tell me about the equilibrium architect. What does that mean? Okay, explain it to somebody that is to an average person.
Amazing. Well, the equilibrium architect, like I said at the beginning, let me just start with the problem statement. We are all born into this world, but at the end of the day, we find ourselves chasing a life that was never ours to chase to begin with. You grow up, they tell you to go to school, get a job, probably get married or have kids, rinse, repeat, die. And at the end of the day, you are living a life that is void of purpose, that is void of peace, that is void of fulfillment. And you are wondering, is this all there is to my life? Is this all I am? Am I just here to pay bills? Am I just here to look for a job? Am I just here to work with a boss and never have my own? So, and this thing, became a trigger for me when I was applying to several places, including banks in Nigeria. And I remember when after getting to the bank, we're now hearing the backstory of the fact that over 170,000 people applied the same time that I was one of these 170,000 people that applied for this post. And obviously, they had position for only about 100 people. So you can imagine the rigor. You understand what I mean? The rigor of having to go through all of the stages. At some point, I nearly passed out, as in, like, I felt like my spirit was yanked out of my body because it became like a do or die affair, if you get what I mean. Like, because obviously you needed to get, because everybody has been wired and be conditioned to know that you need to get a job. Everybody needs to get a job. You understand? So that wiring and that conditioning, you're obviously, there are jobs and there are jobs. And getting a job in that kind of establishment, you know that you can never be uncomfortable again for the rest of your life if you know what you are doing. You get? So you can imagine, from microbiology graduate science to now fighting for a place in the banking industry. I had no business being there, but that was the best place that offered me a space, a job that said you have the potential to be here. So, and you understand, like, there's something we say that we die there. So, so you can imagine. So every time I even think back on that, it's like traumatizing for me, because now in retrospect, I'm like, how can I be so talented, with so much potential, with so much inside of me, with so much that I can give, that I have to offer the world? And there I was, struggling for 100 position out of 170,000 people. So that already sowed a seed. I didn't know it was a seed for the future. So upon getting to the UK, I began to look around me, and then I began to realize that, look, the same problem that we face in Nigeria, with this kind of misalignment of destinies, of purpose, of human potential, with the systems that have been established, exists in the UK, and then by extension everywhere else in the world. They all just have different colors and under different flags. But the youths, young people, are facing the exact same thing. Everyone is facing the exact same thing. Go to school, come out, hustle for a job, then you start your own rat race. You begin to, beg to apply. And and that's why there are very, very few outliers. When you think about the likes of, what's their name now? The likes of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk. That's why they are outliers. And if you check their story, you realize that at some point they dropped out of school. That's story for another day. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm giving you this backstory to make you understand that what I'm talking about is not something that I have not experienced, that you have not experienced. We all have experienced it, but we are living it, and it has become a normalized nonsense. It has become normal for us to continue to live that way. So when my awakening came, and I came to the consciousness of the fact that, hey, why having been given the heart of a lion are we all living like mice? That's a quote coined from Brandon Burchard. Why? I began to ask questions like, come off it, what is going on? God could not have, in his mightiness and in his supreme intelligence, have created us to come to earth just for us to run the rat race and be in the vicious cycle, rinse, repeat, and die. Which is why Miles Moron of blessed memory many years ago said the greatest place with the highest potential or the richest thing, or the richest place on earth, is the graveyard, because it is full of unfulfilled potential. Do you know how many inventions, how many advancements we as a civilization have left on the table? You know what, in business they say don't leave money on the table. Do you know how many of it we have left on the table just because we are running a system that just filters people out to become copies instead of catalyst.
This morning, I interviewed a professor friend of mine in the UK, and the conversation have to, even though we're talking about mental health, but it was also being looked at from the point of view of indigenous, African indigenous knowledge system. So one of the things that we raised, or he raised, okay, the question, okay, somebody that I've interviewed more than 10 times here, because we're using Ifa theology as a way to explain mental health. Now we're looking at what is your purpose? Why are you here? And he, of course, repeats something that they have said before, which, of course, I'm going to bring forward to you because you are also a Yoruba. In that, among the Ifa practitioners, when a child is born on the 8th day, they will take this child to the priest to consult an oracle to find what is the purpose of this child. Of course, we could go on and on and on to talk more on that, but where I want to end there is the question of purpose. In that we are not supposed to live our life just clicking button. We're supposed to create the button ourselves. We're supposed to create the reason why we are here instead of just fulfilling the mission of other people so that we just be in the buses for other people. So I don't know within where you are coming from because you grew up in Nigeria, you are a Yoruba person. If this question of purpose, how deep it is for you?
Well, at the end of the day, the whole mission is to help you to fulfill your purpose so that you can live from the inside out, because there is a bigger world on your inside than the world that you see. So that you stop focusing just on what you can see and be introspective on your original design, who God has made you to be by original design. Then you can layer that on the systems of the world. That is why I wrote the book Finding the Equilibrium, and you can see it behind me here. The book Finding the Equilibrium tells you the story, step by step, and it shows you how you can excavate all of this conditioning to realize, to find yourself, and then now begin that journey of purpose. Because everyone tells you to find your purpose, but at the end of the day, your purpose was always installed inside of you. You don't tell an iPhone to go and find its purpose. The purpose of the phone is in the phone. Just like you as well, your purpose is right there inside of you. So not outside of you. So everyone will tell you who to become. They will tell you what course to do, what school to go. But at the end of the day, after all of that is said and done, who are you when everywhere else is quiet? That's the real person. And that's the real person that can change the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And like I said before, we're going to come back again because we need to explore that book that you have written. We also need to take this conversation deeper on the architect because now we understand who you are. Like I said, we are not in haste. So we'll come back again, at least up to 2 episodes, I think that we are going to do. Now, for those that have listened to you to this point, they want to connect to you, they want to reach out to you. Tell them how to reach out to you.
You can find me on www.abimbolaoliyide.com and my name everywhere on LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Abimbola Oliyide, Oliyide. I'm sure you can probably see my name on this episode somewhere. So, and then you can send me an email, contact@abimbolaoliyide.com. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Queen1Billion. That's my personal handle. And like I stated before, my business, my fashion line is African_bomber jackets. And you'll find me. That's where all the places that you can find. But just Google my name. You'll find me on Google as well. So, yeah.
All right. Dear Abimbola, thank you so much for the time. We really have appreciated the sharing here and the value that you shared here. And of course, for those of you that have listened to the end of this conversation, we also say thank you. But we also want you to share your thought. What do you take away from this conversation with Abimbola when it comes to your purpose? Talk about owning your story, knowing where you're coming from, knowing your legacy, and using that as a leverage to be able to differentiate yourself in the herd, in the crowd, in the soup that we have today in the world. We have over 5 billion people on the internet. It would be risky for you to just be repeating something just because you hear it out there. You need to craft your story. You need to be able to own your story and also be able to use it to differentiate yourself. That is very important. So make sure you subscribe to this channel and make sure you also share with people that might see value in it if you see value in it. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you so much, Abimbola.
Thank you for having me.